the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, JLR announces a launch date for the OKTA, and then we're joined by Nick Guyver himself to talk about all things fixing rally cars in the desert and making a Dodge Power Wagon tow truck. And now, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Beres, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at theberescollection.com or follow us on Instagram at theberescollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today.
I'm the conventional oil to Steven's synthetic lubricant. I'm the friction modifier of podcasting, Ike Goss.
I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, here we are. And this week in the news, some big unveil is coming. I know you are probably more than anybody interested in Land Rover's brand new Defender OKTA, because it's specifically designed for Octogenarians, I believe, is what they geared towards. So
is that what that means? I didn't.
Yeah. It has the very low. The suspension goes all the way down, so you can get into it very easily. Yeah,
it's like the city bus.
Yeah, it's like those bathtubs, you know, that you can open the door of the bathtub and get in, and it fills with water and all those. It's the same sort of thing. Yeah.
Handrails everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere. Yeah. It's got the button where if you fall over in it, you can push it and someone will help you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it has a personally monogrammed plaque that says all of your medication allergies.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. The prescription drugs that you need to take. It's got one of those things in the dashboard that has every day of the week, and you can open it and your pills are in there.
Yeah, handrails everywhere.
Fantastic. I love it. I'm looking very forward. Anyways, July 3rd is World International OKTA Day. So we'll know what we're in for come
release
July 3rd. Yeah.
They're gonna remove the wrap.
They're gonna make that peeling noise. It's just gonna make like that peeling noise for half an hour. Some guy is gonna just peel that off. It's going to be an ASMR video.
Now we've gotten word that the color of this vehicle has been leaked.
Oh,
and, I'm reading here that it's orthopedic beige.
Oh, orthopedic beige. Yes, that makes total sense. Of course it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 It's going to be like a pair of comfortable shoes.
Mm-hmm. A smooth vinyl interior.
Oh, it's going to be real nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Easy clean. Easy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, we're everybody's looking forward to it. It's going to be great. It will be, found at every retirement home in Boca Raton, Florida very soon. So looking forward to that, the Land Rover OKTA. So we'll, hopefully we'll get invited to the OKTA unveil. I'm sure. Why wouldn't we?
We don't meet the age requirements.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
Now, do we know where this is going to be held? Do we know where this is going to be held? No.
Top secret location. I imagine at like a Denny's at 5:30 in the morning. I think that's probably where it's going to be.
Maybe 5:30 in the evening for supper.
Or 5:30 in the evening. Yeah, it could be one of those two. It could be one of those two. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. At a Perkins somewhere.
We'll keep our listeners updated on the OKTA unveiling.
The OKTA unveiling, it's gonna be great. Speaking of international days, it was just World Land Rover Day, and like JLR, we did absolutely nothing to. We sort of let it fly by us, unfortunately.
Now the boys and I, we did celebrate. We went out.
Good.
We went out to the old Rover Rendezvous up there. The PCRC was having their annual event, and boy howdy, it was a good one.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, They had a good spread. We took 3 Series Land Rovers, Series 2 and 2 Doormobiles up there.
Ooh, nice.
And they rented out this really nice campground above the Hood River locks, the Cascade locks. And so it was pretty nice. They had a lodge there, and they grilled salmon, and kind of did the whole thing. It was really nice. A little bit of a change of pace for them, in terms of this event. It was more of a social event than previous ones. So it was great. Yeah, PCRC hit it out of the park, I think, on that. And
Excellent.
Thanks to the organizers.
All right, perfect. Well, that's good news. We're going to have our very, very good friend Nick Cimmarusti on the show this afternoon. Nick Guyver, who we've been trying to get on the show for no less than, I want to say it's been about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I don't know.
He's been busy fixing stuff.
He is a world-renowned mechanic, international man of mystery, a difficult gentleman to nail down. He's in high demand, like the A-Team. Honestly, if you can find him, then maybe you can have your vehicle worked on by him. But anyway, so we're going to dial up the old interview machine, and we're going to get Nick on the show here and have a quick conversation. So without further ado, let's pop him in here. All right. Well, here we are with our good friend, Nick Cimmarusti, mechanic extraordinaire. One would even say sort of paramechanic, as you seem to sort of parachute in and are the fleet mechanic for a variety of interest events, not the least of which is the Rebel Rally, which is how we came to know you. And our first meeting was in the back of your incredible mobile workshop that you take out there into the desert to help all those teams make it through what is a pretty grueling event out there. So, Nick, welcome to the show. Thanks for the time, and looking very forward to catching up.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Nick, I understand that you're a mechanic on the Rebel Rally, and you've kind of made a name for yourself, fixing emergency repairs and that sort of thing. How'd you get started doing that?
Well, with the Rebel Rally, it started with Nina Barlow, who's a competitor in the Rebel Rally, right? Mm-hmm. I work for Nina most of the year. I do a lot of training for her, and I guide on the Rubicon Trail for her. So when Emily was originally putting the Rebel Rally together, she was asking for recommendations of different people, and Nina gave me a shining recommendation that I'd be a good fit for the mechanics team, and Emily called me with a crazy idea, and I was like, I guess. And so we rented a U-Haul truck, and I threw a bunch of tools in it, and we followed the rally around, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, that's
well, you
awesome.
must like it. Must be rewarding to help those competitors who are struggling with their vehicles in some way. But you said you're also doing guided trips on the Rubicon. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we ship Jeeps from Sedona to the Rubicon, and basically can facilitate guided adventure on the Rubicon Trail. We do it generally over 3 days. We provide all the food, all the camping gear. Basically, the idea is you can show up with a bag of clothes, and we'll take you through the Rubicon with everything you need. So we've got, I've got a shipping container with camping gear for 75 people here at my house, and we do guided trips for about 5 or 6 Jeeps is where we limit it to, but we've done things as big as 75 or 100 people, like for support for events, things like that. So the last Top Gear episode that was filmed on the Rubicon, we provided all the support for that.
Oh, cool!
Several filming things.
Neat. Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool. And so how did you get into that whole world of off-roading and guiding and, alternative mechanicking?
Yeah, so I guess it starts at the beginning, right? I was born in Southern California, and we used to camp out of our airplane all the time. My dad's a pilot and an aircraft mechanic and a flight instructor, so we used to camp all over the place out of our airplane, and my parents were looking for a way to get out of Southern California again. And we were flying back from Idaho, and we stopped in Georgetown for fuel, and they decided to move to Georgetown, which is in Northern California. And Georgetown is kind of the last town before the Rubicon Trail. So growing up in Georgetown, it's kind of like mandatory that you get into four-wheel and rock crawling.
Right.
So I think my my car that I had in high school was a Bronco 2, Ford
Mhm.
Bronco 2,
Mhm.
and with the twin traction beams and everything. And that went on the Rubicon several times. And then I got a Toyota pickup and Samurais and more pickups. So I've had a ton of different vehicles. But when you're growing up in an aircraft repair shop, you have this big shop available to you.
Right.
And so all sorts of ideas where you can hodgepodge things together, and living in the remote area, people save a bunch of parts. So
Mhm.
I think at one point in time, somebody got kicked out of the local trailer park and left 3 Ford Rangers behind, and the manager of the trailer park gave us 3 Ford Rangers, and we built boonie crashers out of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Went bonds.
I'm sorry. What was that term?
Boonie crashers.
Yeah, tell. Can you define that for us?
I
For
don't know.
those that don't know, what's a
It's
booty
it's more of
crasher?
a feeling than a definition, right?
Okay. All right. How does that feel?
Yeah. Sometimes a little less gravity, sometimes a little more. I
Right.
guess.
Right. That
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of
All
fun.
right.
So I guess now you'd consider it like a gambler car.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I think up until 2 years ago there was still a Mercury Zephyr stuck in a tree somewhere that we might have relocated there.
I love it. That sounds fantastic. So when you say you'd camp out of your airplane, is that like a bush plane, like a big tire bush plane you'd land in BLM land or something, or what kind of?
We had a twin Comanche.
Oh, okay, yeah.
When
Mm-hmm.
we were growing up, and we had a bunch of different planes. My dad still has several planes,
Mm-hmm.
but that particular plane was a twin Comanche. So that taught me how to camp like you were backpacking, right?
Right.
Like you didn't need
Yep.
all the stuff. So, and I still kind of follow a lot of that mindset. Most of the time on the Rubicon, I don't sleep in a tent. I sleep on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
just bring a bedroll.
Mm-hmm.
So that all kind of set the stage for camping and fixing things and all that.
Well, now that
And so,
maybe comes around to the nickname we let off with, Nick Guyver. So where does that very famous nickname come from? I think obviously it hints to for anyone under the age of 25, the television show. I teach at a university, and I use all kinds of television references, and often they go right over people's heads. I talk about Knight Rider. I talk about these kind of shit. They have no idea.
You gotta stop using Matlock.
No idea what they're talking about. But where does Nick Guyver come from?
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of on the tail end of that era, and I had like a very small awareness of the show MacGyver, where I need a paper clip and a rubber band, and I can fix this, right?
Right, you can go into space, sort of a thing. Yeah. Right.
and the nickname actually came from a friend's mom when we were in high school. My friend Neil and I used to get in a lot of trouble together and build a lot of things together.
Mm-hmm.
And we were working on his Toyota pickup one day, and we went and test drove it, and it didn't have seats in it. And he was driving, sitting on a skateboard, and I was sitting on a milk crate. And we, may or may not have caught some air, and both got rattled around like ants in a can. And his mom was reading us the riot act about safety and stuff, and she called him Vin Greasel and me Nick Guyver, and that's
Vin
kind of
Greasel. I like that.
that.
This lady's clever. We need to have that lady on the show.
You're a real gift for nicknaming. Wow, that's
So that gives rise to another question. Tell us about your gnarliest trail repair.
Oh, earliest. I don't know that there's one in particular. We've done things like put transmissions back together. Bell housings that have broken off of transmissions, and welding them back together, or JB welding them back together, and bonding with pieces of ratchet strap to give more rigidity to the weld and things like that.
Yeah, it's just like carbon fiber at that point, sort of. Yeah.
Do you have a JB Weld sponsorship?
How much JB Weld is used on something like the Rebel Rally? Like, do you get it in a 5-gallon container?
How much JB Weld do you carry? What's a good recommendation for the volume of JB Weld that you're carrying here?
We use JB Weld on the Rebel, but not in excess. Like, occasionally.
If you're not using JB Weld to excess, you're not using JB Weld.
I think one time on the Rubicon, I had just bought my JK, and the it had been re-geared before I bought it, and all the ring gear bolts had backed out.
Oh.
And then they wedged themselves into the housing.
Sure.
And so I wound up with like 4 holes through the casting of the housing and the differential cover. And so we're on a hill, and so we had to use a winch to stabilize the truck and then jack it up, take the wheels off, took it all apart. Luckily, it was an aftermarket gear set that had 2 sets of bolt holes. So I got on the ham radio and I radioed out, and somebody hiked in about halfway. I hiked out halfway, met them, got the 7/16 bolts instead of the 1/2-inch bolts, put it all back together, and then JB welded the housing all back together so it would hold oil. Drove it the rest of the way out.
Just spackled the cover back together.
I think it broke at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were back on the trail the next morning by 8.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a pretty good one.
The only person that orders JB Weld in the caulking gun format. That's good. That's good. That's the Nick edition, the Nick Cimmarusti edition, JB Weld, the caulking gun size. That's it's not a bad, actually, doing anything about it. It's not a bad idea.
So you do recovery classes, you do these guided trail runs. Tell us a little bit about your vehicle recovery experience. So, like, you have a particular one that stands out. There's a lot of like online vehicle recovery sort of videos, like on YouTube and these sorts of things. They've become extremely popular, really surprisingly popular. That's like a whole content.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's a cottage industry.
Yeah,
really is.
Sometimes it's a little frustrating from somebody that teaches like proper technique, I guess. And I'm not one for rules, but there's some technique to things that should be followed, and so some of that's frustrating. Some of it's really good. I don't follow most of it very closely. Like you'd think I'd be more into it, but I watch like videos about hopping up chainsaws and stuff.
Sounds like it's kind of aggravating to watch people do things wrong.
Yeah, well, and I'm not saying that they're all wrong, because there's several of them that are very, very good at what they do, and anybody can armchair quarterback a YouTube video,
right?
So it's good on all of them, every one of them for figuring out how to make that work. So as far as vehicle recoveries that I've done, I've done quite a bit, and we've done things that are upside down a ravine, and it takes a few days to get it out. The tow truck is really nice for stuff like that now, even though it really hasn't been used a whole lot. It kind of got finished up to where it's usable for just before the Rebel Rally last year. So just before, like, actually at the Rebel Rally, we put ropes on the winches.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Cool. So you're talking about your Dodge Power Wagon that you've converted into essentially a wrecker.
Yeah. So it's a 2006 Ram Power Wagon, so 3rd gen Ram. So gas engine, came with lockers and a winch and a sway bar disconnect that doesn't work anymore.
Nice.
And if you know anything about Jeeps, that kind of 2007, 2008, 2009 Wranglers were kind of plagued with a bunch of electrical problems, and my 2006 Ram's been like that. There's been, the lockers didn't work, so the wiring for that's all bypassed. I think I bought it in 2018 and kind of put a rooftop tent on it, did the Overlander thing with it, and it worked out really well. And then I kind of got this idea that I wanted a tow truck.
Yep.
And I was going to build, I had a 74 Chevy K20 that was my grandfather's, and I was going to build it on that. But then I just couldn't get past the C-channel frame, and I've had a bunch of problems with those trucks with ripping out steering boxes. And it just...
Square bodies are notorious for that.
Yeah. So I just really I couldn't get motivated on it. So I was like, I'm just going to use the Power Wagon. So my dad and I went and bought a wrecker that we found on Facebook Marketplace up in Reno. And all I wound up using off of it was the boom and the winches. And built a custom bed and everything around the boom, mounted it, learned a lot, and it's still got quite a ways to go. The hydraulic tank that I built for it is not what I like, so I found a new tank, and I need to cut the tank out, and I need to build a tow bar for it. And I started building new sheep's heads, which are the pulleys at the end of the boom.
Yeah.
That will accommodate the rope instead of the cable a little better.
Mm-hmm.
I had to build a custom bracket to hold the hydraulic pump on the front of the motor because it's belt driven. Mm-hmm. And I thought I was going to be able to use a lot more from the donor truck than I wound up being able to, which is pretty much par for the course on any custom stuff, right? So, new pump.
So now you said you just finished this record project prior to last year's Rebel Rally. Now, did you end up using it on the rally?
I did. Yeah, we used it a couple times.
Cool.
I guess the biggest one was the Iridium Team 133 hit a washout by Ridgecrest and snapped the front axle in half right at the front axle disconnect, which is a common failure point on the JLs. And so we were able to just go pick up the whole front of the Jeep and pull it out of where it was and then just push it onto a trailer with the tow truck. So
very cool.
It worked really well. It's very handy. And now, since then I've used it for a couple of recoveries. I use it for training a lot.
Yeah.
Teach a lot of recovery classes. And
have you considered repossessing vehicles?
Off-road repossession.
I'm too nice for that.
It's a whole new genre. It's a whole new genre of YouTube videos. You're taking the repo
Off-road
video
repossession.
and the off-road recovery video, and you're putting them together into one. It's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
The hard part is then you have to pack up the rooftop tent before you can tow it away.
That's right. No, you hook up while they're sleeping. You hook up and you just tow that thing out of there. You tow that thing out of there. Yeah, it'd be great. That's a whole new genre, man. I think hey, the repo genre. You got the airplane repo. You got the car repo. You repo anything. Now, off-road repo. I think that could be it.
Yeah.
That could be it. Nick Guyver's off-road repo. I think.
I would subscribe to that. Yep. I've subscribed to 0 YouTube channels.
That's the one. That'd do it. That would finally get Ike to subscribe to something. So let's see. So Nick, you see a ton of vehicles. Obviously, you're in the work that you do. Give us a little what do you think from a you have to fix it because it broke. What's the most reliable vehicle that you see on something like the Rebel or other things you do, and what's maybe the least reliable vehicle that you run into?
Well, the thing you can rely on breaking down generally is Land Rover, Range Rover.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's correct. Yes,
I didn't have a ton of experience with them going into the Rebel Rally, and I will say the most problems that I've had with the Land Rovers has been the air suspension.
Oh yeah,
was
a
nightmare for the first couple of years. Learning that system, learning how to band-aid it and make it work, because nobody wants to be riding around at full droop
on their bump stops. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I've done things they ripped out an airline, so we took their mechanical pencil apart and there was a tube inside of it that was the right size, so we shoved it back together and clamped it and made it work. But I think the first year we figured out to reset I don't remember if it was an LR3 or an LR4, but to reset the system to where it would actually go back to standard ride height, you had to jack up each corner individually.
Yes.
And you had turn the key and pat your head and
that's right. You have to burn some sage and exactly.
Yeah.
Do the whole, that's right. The incantation has to be spoken indirectly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And most of the time, reliability wise, the event's relatively short, right? So you don't have things failing like alternators and things like that where on the road after 100,000 miles you have those things. We see that stuff, but it's onesie twosie.
Right.
Normally it's the two big contributors are aftermarket parts that are either poorly designed or poorly installed.
Right.
Or driver error, right? So people,
driving into things.
Yeah, or just driving, you'll hear if you go to training with us, myself or Nina, it's you get harped on all the time. Don't drive faster than you can see. Don't drive faster than you can see.
Right.
And in the moment on the rally, obviously I've never competed, so I couldn't tell you exactly what it feels like in the driver's seat. But it seems like, in the moment, we're not aware of how fast we're going, and then all of a sudden, there's an awareness in front of us.
That's exactly right. You Dukes of Hazzard into something, and then there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the worst years was it 3 years ago? The year we started out at the Hoover Dam. Mm-hmm. We were up northeast of Tonopah, and that, I think it was the second day of competition, or it might have been the first day. That was when the Jeep broke its axle in half. One of the Wranglers broke its axle in half. We also had, the day before that, the Porsche, folded its suspension and broke an axle shaft.
Yeah.
We had a boatload of carnage, and that was Emily gave all the competitors the Dutch uncle talk,
right?
And I had to stand next to her, and I felt like I was in trouble too. And we were busy. Yes. We were really busy that rally because of 2 days of competition. We were fixing things the entire competition,
right?
So and then the next year, like the worst thing we had was FJ Anna's fuel pump was causing some weird problems that took us a couple days to figure out, and wound up the sock on the bottom of the fuel pump, the intake filter, which funny enough looks like a little stick figure guy with his arms out, was clogged from sand from years of competing and being in the sand and stuff. So that was like the worst of it that year. But some years we've got carnage from beginning to end.
So when a Jeep breaks its axle, what do you guys do to fix something like that? You're in the desert, you're moving almost on a daily basis, at least every sort of few days. What happens? How do you even start to repair something like that?
Yeah, so kind of the process has been, I think with 3 times we've had a Jeep actually, kind of mangle a front axle.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty common.
There
you go.
And they all in 3 different ways. But the first one, it just bent it, and it looked like a smiley face, and the tires were cambered in like a Honda. And so that was the first year of the rally, and I put it on a trailer. I took it to Hesperia, and I have family around that area, and my uncle knew a guy that owned a body shop, and they had a frame machine, so they put it on the frame machine and bent the axle back. And it lasted, half a day of competition, and it bent back.
Right.
And we didn't have a truss to put on or anything. Right. So I found a 4-wheel drive shop, Crawler Off-Road in Indio. They were super cool, and they put together a Dana 30 for me, and we swapped it under the Jeep, and they were able to finish. And
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was kind of like a multi-stage process. It was like bend the axle back. Oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
But my goal is always to get them back on course.
Right.
Doesn't matter if they've lost a whole day or 2 days. And my goal is
just
always to get
do
them
something to get them back out. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So the second one, they broke the short side of the axle tube out of the differential, so it broke the casing and everything.
Oh, okay.
And it broke the inner shaft, and it was like a 300M RCV shaft.
Yep.
So we decided, I called around, tried to find a housing, put it out on social media that I was looking for a housing, and wound up talking to the driver's husband, and he kind of went, well, I guess that's their rally. You might as well just put it on the trailer and tow it home. I'm not really willing to put the expense into fixing this when we're going to go to 1-ton axles. And that kind of pissed me off. And so I was like, I take a view on it because I'm involved in a lot of the training and stuff.
Yeah.
That these competitors spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to get there, and to not put that same kind of effort in and have kind of like that support on the back end is kind of BS. So if we can't get a housing, I'm just going to weld this thing back together. And so we preheated it as best we could with a propane torch. And if you're familiar with welding cast at all, it's not normally real
not fun.
Successful.
It is not fun, especially not like out in the desert on a tarp. You know, like
in the
is that cast steel or cast iron?
What's that?
Are those cast steel or cast iron?
They are cast steel, yeah. So better.
Okay, so a little bit easier.
Yeah, a little easier, yeah.
So we preheated it with a propane torch for about an hour, just let it sit on there. And then I have a small Lincoln 155 that I bring on the rally that's loaded with flux core. And I just did multiple passes. I did real narrow, real hot passes and tried to just stack them and kind of spread that heat affected area out as much as I could. And then we went to the kitchen. We went over and saw Drew Deckman and got a bunch of food serving trays and a bunch of rags, and we wrapped that thing up and taped it all shut, let it cool really slow. And then the axle shaft had still broken. The last 1.5 inches of the splines had been sheared off.
Okay.
And so I just V-notched that, set it in some angle iron, and welded that up, and it was relatively straight. And once we got the axle kind of cooled down a little bit, I welded every piece of scrap metal I could find to it to kind of
brace it,
truss out.
Truss it up,
And they did the next, I don't know, 6 days, five or 6 days of competition on it. And I wound up towing it back to Sacramento, but dropped it off with a trailer, and she drove it home the last 10 or so miles from there.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome. That's so cool.
That's a great story. That's commitment to the bit.
Yeah.
You know? Well done.
So finally, we're remiss if we don't talk quickly about your Land Rover, because even though you've admitted that it's the least reliable vehicle, and in many ways that's true, you have become the proud owner, and there's no other way to describe it, but the proud owner of a Land Rover Discovery, which you are now in the process of making it your own. So tell us about that. What brought you to the Discovery, and what's your plan for that car?
Well, so what brought me to it was just, I've got the affliction of cruising Facebook Marketplace like everybody else.
It's
like,
a dangerous affliction.
Land Rover.
Yeah, you're better off with like a drinking problem or a gambling problem or something. I think you're much better off. Yeah, much better off. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a $2,000 car, and in its defense, the paint is very nice, and the it has a.
That's how they get you.
That's
how they get you.
Yeah.
It's the ones with the pretty face.
It's a 2000 Discovery 2.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So all in all, pretty straight.
Yep.
Has a salvage title.
Yep.
I bought it, and the guy said, "Oh, it has a cracked exhaust manifold and has a really bad exhaust leak." And I was not real, deeply aware of Land Rover problems, so it sounded like a Ford Triton motor that had lost a spark plug.
Right.
Because if you've heard one of those, they're pretty, characteristic of a Ford thing. But so I drove it home and found out through the course of Diagnostics that it had a blown head gasket.
Yes, of course it does.
And blew right out the side.
Yeah.
And so, which really wasn't that big a deal. In 3 days, and I had new gaskets in it. The heads were flat. And, I went through everything.
That's a factory. That was factory fitted that way, actually, with a blown head gasket. That's how they came.
Right?
Yeah, from the factory.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we got that, and my wife started driving it, and it was good for about a month and a half.
Okay.
And then the front drive shaft fell apart and put a hole in the side of the transmission.
Right. Yep. Makes sense. Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm not putting a new transmission in this car. And it was a good size hole, probably 3 inches by 2 inches.
Sure.
But it wasn't into any of the pressurized areas of the transmission. It was basically just a window to look into the pan, right?
Right.
And so I cut a piece of aluminum and fitted it and welded it in. And that's been good since. But now it's currently sitting at my shop with a blown heater core.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
That's a
fun job.
That's neat. So I started tearing that apart, and a buddy of mine, Tim Scully, owns Scully's Off-Road. He does a lot of Rover stuff.
Yeah.
I went down and saw him. He gave me the shifter so I can get the center diff lock.
Oh, nice.
So
cool.
Now I have incentive to tear the console apart more to get to the heater core and also install center diff
Yeah, you
lock.
got to put in the center diff lock, and next thing you know, you're going to have a camel trophy replica in your hands. You're going to get in, you're just going to go full out. Yeah.
So just to review that, big plans currently parked.
Yeah, currently.
Is that the cliff notes of the?
Yeah, I don't know about big plans, but plans. And funny that you mentioned camel trophy. The way I got into guiding on the Rubicon was I opened my off-road shop. My dad and I opened it together, Black Sheep Off-Road, in 2009.
Oh, cool.
And I started doing maintenance for a guy that was guiding trips on the Rubicon. His name's Harold Peachman, who's actually a camel trophy competitor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he started guiding in 1987 on the Rubicon. And I started doing maintenance for him, and then going and doing trail repairs when you have a big breakdown, like suspension mounts ripping off the frame,
or something,
transfer breaking in half, stuff like that. And then I started going on trips with him a little bit, and that's kind of where I got my guiding start. And then when Nina bought his business out in 2000, I don't remember if it was 12 or 13, I kind of came as part of the sale, I guess, and that's how I got in.
Package
deal. Well, I think Nick, it is that time. If you've listened to the show before, you know a little bit about what you're into, but every guest we ask to, speaking of the Rubicon, run the gauntlet that is Ike Goss's favorite part of the show, the legendary lightning round of questions. I'll let Ike explain the format, but it is, a few guests have still not recovered from the intensity of questioning. So, Ike, are you ready?
All right, Nick, this is just short questions and a gut response answer. So just a quick answer, and it's very difficult. So prepare yourself. This is going to test your off-road knowledge, your recovery bona fides. This is for all the marbles. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. Gas or diesel?
Can I give it a
Go quick gut response answers?
Diesel.
All right. Soft top or hard top?
Soft top.
Leaf springs or coils?
God, that's another hard one.
Oh no.
Coils.
Coils,
but
coils. All right. Traction control or lockers?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. And the final question, best way to remove gear oil from your underpants?
Oh, super clean.
Oh, there you go.
He knew that one.
He knew that one right away. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Nice work.
5 out of 5. A perfect score. Well done, Nick. Well, thank you.
Perfect score.
Thank you, Nick.
Your plaque will be in the mail,
send
sir.
you your prize there. Well, Nick, we appreciate it. We definitely need at least 5 or 6 more sessions with you just to go through. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
And how can we find out more if folks are interested about the mighty Nick Guyver?
Yeah, how do we find your off-road shop? How do we find your social media? How do people follow you?
Instagram is Nick Guyver _enterprises, and nickguyver.net would be my website, which isn't all that updated very often. Any of the California trainings on Barlow Adventures website, which is barlows.us, I'd say if not 100%, 99% of those trainings involve me. So that's pretty much where you can find me, or Nick Cimmarusti on Facebook.
Right. Like the A-Team. If
cool.
you need him, you can find him. Yeah, that's right. He'll find you. So there you go. All right. Well, Nick, hey, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And again, we'll definitely have you on again soon because, like I say, I feel like we've just barely scratched the surface here in the short amount of time we've had with you this morning, but we appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, man, you know what? Nick Guyver, he's one of my favorite guys, man. What a neat job, to just be out in the woods, just, JB welding people's shit back together is really cool. And
that guy needs a sponsorship.
We need to do a video tour of his, we didn't really talk about it, but it's like a fifth wheel tractor trailer that he has his workshop with all the different tools and everything and his whole crew. He's got several mechanics that work with him on the Rebel as well, but it's real cool. It's like a NASCAR pit crew, but in the middle of the desert. And they set up, Yeah, they set up like a whole workshop out there. They've got lights on the side of the trailer and everything. They put tarps down everywhere, and they've just got vehicles in there getting serviced, and it's pretty incredible. It's a neat operation, man. I really respect those folks for, just putting in the effort to keep all those different cars. They're not team affiliated, right? They're just a general event mechanic, and they work just as hard for every single team, which is
they have to have
cool.
knowledge of a broad range of vehicles. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's neat to hear stories about fixing things on the trail. And, it sounds like he's got some interesting projects of his own. So look forward to having him back at some point in the future.
Yeah, I want to take that Power Wagon I want to repo somebody's rooftop tent.
Freelander, you just drive around repossessing Freelanders.
Yeah, repossessing Freelanders. Yeah, they're incredibly hard to tow for some reason. That they're so hard to push.
Nothing like an unreliable vehicle that's hard to tow.
It's hard to push. It's so hard to push. It's bizarre. The rolling resistance is insanely high. I don't know why. Anyways, all right. Well, that's it for this week. We've got exciting stuff coming. We're mere weeks away, not even, from the big Anarch celebration up there. We'll all be up in celebrating.
Meet us in person, get an autograph.
It's going to be great. We're gonna have a little booth, I think, set up there at the Anarch grounds. You can get your Tiny Ike sticker autographed. You can autograph actual Ike if you'd like. We're going to be collecting.
Stephen will be giving out real, not temporary tattoos.
Actual tattoos, yeah. No, I don't really know how to do it, but we figure it out. I mean, how hard can it be?
If you want an Underpowered Hour neck tattoo, Steven's your man.
I'm ready to do it. I can do it. So, without further ado, we're going to get on home making a tattoo gun. So we're ready for that. And otherwise, we'll see you next week.
All right. See you on the trail, Steven.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Beres, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Beres. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.